All right, well, tonight's topic is on slavery. As many of you know, I'm going through George's stuff now. I've been going through his office, was the last thing I wanted to go through. So I've been rifling through his file cabinets full of information, and I came across this little book that he had started called You Are a Slave. It was just maybe 15 pages. And it's funny because it's been such a long time since I've actually immersed myself in his writings. Well, it's been a while since I've had a good conversation with him, let's just say that. Even though he died in June of last year, his mind was gone far before that. So it was a long time since we really had a good conversation, and reading his material is like talking to him. So what I end up doing is I sit down ready to write, and I read. And I read, and I read, because I'm enjoying having the conversation, and then I go, oh, Monday Night Workshop, crap! And then, no, Monday Night Workshop is not crap. It's brought to you by Smartwater. But, again, it just makes me think, oh, I gotta get back into the rhythm of things. And I remember the last conscious sentence he said to me was, promise me you'll never stop improving. Which, when I look through his material, that's what I think about. I feel so blessed that he's left this for me to carry it forward. 700 workshops, I have 4 file cabinets packed full of workshops. And because he was so organized, it was very cute. He has super workshops, good workshops, workshops to work on. I mean, there's like little things all categorized in there. So anyway, I came across this little book that he had. This was actually in a file called Beginnings, where there's a bunch of little things he started and obviously never completed. And I think that's also one thing I like about our dynamics. We work so well together in the classroom. Many of you had not experienced that, but we had a really good rhythm, and it was like student-teacher work, and it worked well. Like, I learned so much from him just being in the classroom with him. So it's the same thing. I take his material and then I take off of it. That's what we used to do in the classroom. I would take off of what he would say. And so that's what I want to present to you tonight. I ended up doing, it's going to be a part 1, because there's so much more information, so I'll be doing a part 2 as well. Now, the idea of slavery is not new. It's throughout history. Slaves have existed. The idea of being a slave to the things in our society is not new. We all know this. We are slaves to our phones now, or slaves to the internet. Doyle, do you have a phone, by the way? This is called a phone.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to use it.
It rings every once in a while.
I don't know how to turn it off.
I was looking through the list of things that I was a slave to. George had actually went through the definition in Webster's, and he said, slaves, involuntary slaves are everywhere, even our own homes. Webster defines slavery as one who is totally subservient to a dominating influence. That's the first definition. The second one who works hard at monotonous menial tasks. And the third one is one who responds to another mechanism. But I like the first one who is totally subservient to a dominating influence. Then I started thinking, well, what are dominating influences? Eventually, I came to Mahatma Gandhi. Actually, his quote says, the moment the slave resolves that he will no longer be a slave, his fetters fall. Freedom and slavery are mental states. And that's really where I came up with the idea that it's all about mental. So anything that I'm a slave to originated in my mind. Obviously, in Omega 1, I think it is, we say that we're a product of our thinking, and our thinking is derived by what we see and what we hear. So therefore, if I am looking out at the world, I could be a slave to anything. Now, for those of you who know my slavery to Starbucks, there's no Starbucks tonight. See, I broke the chains of Starbucks. But we can be a slave to addictions. I mean, naturally, that's an easy one to go with. We're slaves to addictions. We could be slave to the trends. We could be slave to technology. Obviously, there's another thing that I remember one time I was, actually, George and I were in Sedona with Jody. We'd gone up there for her birthday, and we were in a store, and lightning hit the store. So the electricity went out just like that. And it was during the day, so it wasn't completely dark in there because there was a nice big huge storefront. And George happened to be sitting in his car with Jody, and I was in the store by myself. And I marveled at how calm everybody was. You know, the lights are out, the kids are like, ah, they're playing. But when you went to the front desk, you couldn't pay for anything because they couldn't open the cash registers. So we're so reliant on electricity. And of course, many of you know in Sandy, the Hurricane Sandy, that went through in New York, there were lots of people who were without power or gas because the gas pumps needed electricity to work. Even though there was plenty of gas in New York City, you couldn't operate the pump without the electricity. And I've been in stores. Some of you may have had this experience. You've been in stores and the computers are down, so you can't do anything because the computers are down. What did we do before computers? I mean, we just take out a receipt and write it out. It seems archaic now. So our society has become very dependent, one who is totally subservient to a dominating influence. I was thinking about my migraines. I'm subservient to them. They wreck my life. I mean, they cause havoc. I have to alter my schedules because I'm subservient to the migraines. It's become such a big issue now. I literally have to change my lifestyle because of a migraine. We're subservient to car payments. I have a nice little new car that I bought myself for my birthday, but I've got car payments now, so I am now subservient to the bank. My mortgage, I'm subservient to that. Credit cards, I'm subservient to them. We still are under the influence of their parents. We're subservient to them. We also can add the idea that we're subservient, I'm leaving the video for a second. We're subservient to countries, the governments, subservient to our bosses, our coworkers, teachers. I mean, the list is truly endless. But I was thinking mostly on what really captures my world. I could even say that I'm subservient to Omega. However, that would be considered voluntary instead of involuntary, because I'm voluntarily doing this. And I am in a mode of service to Omega. So that that's one thing I was getting to that I was going to get to probably in part 2, the idea, the difference of when you're involuntary versus voluntary service. Slavery, excuse me. I said service last time. So slavery is what we're talking about. Most people, when you think about slavery, or at least when I think about slavery, it conjures up the images of the South African or African people being shipped over here in big, huge ships. What was that name of that movie? Amistad? Amistad, thank you. That was a movie that was, you know, it really portrayed what went through in that time period of when the slaves were brought to America. Excuse me, it's not the slaves. They were Africans brought to America, turned into slaves. I read about that today. So anyway, that's what, shackles is what I come up with, and the South, cotton pickers, the farms, the plantations who needed more individuals to help them, and they owned them like a possession. So that's the idea that I come up with slavery. And then of course, if we think of today modern day slavery, it would be the same thing. We're shackled by the things that we're enslaved to. We're run by it. So George started out his book that you are either a slave or a slave owner, which I thought was a good idea as well, that we're either a slave or a slave owner. Then I thought, well, slave owners actually are slaves to something other than they have, like, it seems to be a progression. There's something more that I'm a slave to. He says the warring countries of ancient Europe have had an abundance of slaves, also known as war captives, which usually if you're captive in the war, you either go to war camp and you work, supposedly, you're supposed to work, help the army that captured you. The United States engaged in servile slavery, which was service slavery, without the excuse of war. He says that slavery is either voluntary or involuntary. An involuntary slave is held in servitude as the chattel of another, the property of another. He's often driven by a slave owner without conscience. So in other words, the people who had slaves weren't very aware of the conditions that a slave had to go through to get to where they are. So I didn't want to wrap it all up with the idea of slavery and how horrible that idea, because it has been around for generations. History of humanity. I have a small video here. We used to play this a while back. Now when you watch this video, forget the politics. I just want you to see what happens and how quickly people can be convinced of something So quickly, just like that. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a good portrayal of the birth of slavery. So I'm just going to leave you for a moment here and enjoy this video. There we go. That's a protractor.
Children, today, all current teachers will turn over their classes to new teachers.
Just because they've won the war, Miss Warden, just because the enemy have beaten us, that doesn't mean we're to panic. We're not to panic. That's what my dad said.
What did you say, Tommy, dear?
It's Johnny, Miss Warden. My dad says for us not to be scared. We're scared too much. We're dead even though we're alive. We are not to ever be afraid. We mustn't, Miss Warden.
Oh, yes. I'm not afraid for myself. They're brutes, monsters, what they've done. I'm afraid for all of you. Good morning, children. I'm your new teacher. Good morning, Tony.
How did she know Tony's name? I don't know.
Good morning, Miss Warden. Good morning. I'm taking over your class now. You're to go to the principal's office. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to my children? The principal just wants to talk to you, Miss Warden. Really, you must take better care of yourself. But I can't. Oh, but you must. Goodbye. Goodbye, children. There, Cannon. There's no need to cry. I know. I'll sing you a song. Ah, 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 we are children of the world, watching every day go by. Changes my life, changes your life. La, 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 la. You see, fear is something that comes from inside your tummy. And good children like you should put food inside your tummies, not fear. Isn't that so? How we go. Now, what shall we do? I know. We'll play a game. I'll try to guess your names. Tony Gisondi, Michelle Francoeur, Sal Sanchez, Kiernan Tate, Chrissy Fenton, Romy Takagi, Mike, Johnny, Vanessa Bieri, Max Barabbas, Christopher, he's away, Jimmy Stokes, Nicole, Danielle, Leslie, Fitz Giffler, and Christian Moy.
How do you know our names? I mean, we haven't had a roll call or anything. So how do you know our names?
That's easy. You all sit in the same places every day. Each desk has one pupil. So I learned your names from a list. I had to work 3 whole days just to remember all your names. That's very important, don't you think? For a teacher to work hard. Would you tell me something, please? How do you start school? I mean, what do you do to begin, Christian?
First we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, that's after roll call. You forgot roll call. Yes, you forgot roll call, Christian. I forgot roll call.
Very good. But we really don't need a roll call. I know all your names, and I know who's here and who isn't. It's very lazy for a teacher not to know who's here and who isn't. Don't you think? So we should pledge. Isn't that nice? Let's pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Just a moment, children. What does pledge mean?
You sort of pledge you are going to do something, like not suck your thumb, because that makes your teeth bend and you have to wear a brace, like my big sister Susan, and go to the dentist with her.
Very good. Very, very good, Nicole. Pledge means to promise. And allegiance? I think it's quite wrong for you to have to say something with long words in it if you don't understand what you're saying. Let's sit down a minute. Now, what did your other teachers tell you it meant?
Well, Miss Warden, she never said anything. We just had to learn it and say it. That's all. Our real teacher didn't say anything at all.
Your old teacher never explained anything to you? I don't think that was very good. Not to explain. You can always ask me anything. That's what a real teacher should do. But did you ask your mummies and daddies?
Not about our pledge. We just had to learn it. Once I said it right, my dad gave me a dime for saying it good. That's right. Well, you could say it all. It was very good. But I never got a dime. Yes, the other schools I went to, they didn't say anything about it either. We just had to say it every day in school, first thing, after roll call.
Let's begin our lesson then. Now, allegiance means loyalty, a duty to a sovereign, a king, or president, or leader, or to your government. You are pledging, promising, allegiance, loyalty to the flag. That's like saying the flag is more important than you are. How can a flag be more important than a real, live person?
But the next thing is, well, where it says, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation. For which it stands. That means like, well, sort of a sign, isn't it?
Yes, the real word is symbol. But we don't need a sign to remind us we love our country.
It's our flag. Ours. We always pledge to the flag.
Yes. It is a very pretty flag. I wish I could have a piece of it. I know. If it's so important, I think we should all have a piece of it. Don't you?
I have some at home, Miss. There's some in Miss Horton's desk.
Very good, Jean. Now we should decide who should be allowed to cut the first piece off.
Gee, I don't think we should cut up the flag.
I know. As it's Leslie's birthday today.
How'd you know it's my birthday?
Because it's on your school record, Philly. I work to remember the dates. A teacher should know the birthdays of her pupils, shouldn't she? Would you like to, birthday girl?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Come on. You can all come if you want to. Come on. Come on. There you go, birthday girl. Thank you, Leslie.
Can I have a piece, Miss? I want a star. I want a star, too. I want a star, too. I want a star.
Pole looks funny now, doesn't it? I wonder what we should do with it.
Throw it out the window.
That's what you want to do? You can do it now. Before we start our lesson, perhaps there's some questions you'd like to ask me. Ask me anything you like. That's fair, isn't it?
What's your name?
Today and tomorrow, just call me teacher. Just while we're getting to know each other. The day after tomorrow, I'll tell.
Teacher, why was Miss Warden crying?
I suppose she was just tired and needed a rest. She is quite old, isn't she? She's going to have a long rest. We think the teachers should be young. I'm 23.
That's all.
Yes. Yes, I suppose it is.
Is the war over?
Oh, yes, Fitz, isn't that wonderful? Now all your daddies will be home soon.
Did we win or did we lose?
We, that's you and I and all of us. We won. We're all one world now.
Where's my dad? What have you done to my dad? Where's my dad?
He's going to school. Some grown-ups have to go to school, as well as children. Isn't that so?
But they took him away and he didn't want to go.
He's no different from all of you. You sometimes don't want to go to school. With grown-ups, it's the same. Just the same as with children. Would you like to visit him? He has a holiday in a few days.
But Mom says Dad's gone away forever. He has a vacation?
Sorry, but your mama misunderstood Johnny. She's wrong. After all, everyone who goes to school has a vacation. That's fair, isn't it?
I can see him? Honest?
Of course. Your daddy has to go back to school a little. He had some strange thoughts, and he wanted other grown-ups to believe them. It's not right for others to believe wrong thoughts, is it?
Well, no. But my dad never thought anything bad.
Of course not. I said wrong thoughts, not bad thoughts. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's right to show grown-ups right thoughts when they're wrong, isn't it?
Well, yes. But what wrong thoughts did he have?
Just some grown-up thoughts that are old-fashioned. We're going to learn all about them in class. Then we can share knowledge. And I can learn from you as you will learn from me. Shall we?
Well, sure. But my dad couldn't have any wrong thoughts. He just couldn't. Could he?
Well, perhaps sometime when you wanted to talk to your dad about something very important, perhaps he said, "Not now, Johnny, I'm busy. Or we'll talk about that tomorrow." That's a bad thought, not to give you time when it's important, isn't it?
Sure. But that's what grown-ups do all the time. My dad does it all the time, teacher. Granny's worse. Perhaps my mom should go back to school. Perhaps she should.
There's a good boy, Johnny. Oh, yes. I have another lovely surprise for you. You're all going to stay overnight with us. We have a lovely room and bed and lots of food, and we'll all tell stories and have such a lovely time.
Can we stay up to 8 o'clock?
Well, as it's our first day, we'll all stay up till 8:30, but only if you promise to go to sleep right afterwards.
But first we got to say our prayers.
Of course. Perhaps we should say a prayer now. In some schools, that's a custom too. I know. Let's pray for something very good. What shall we pray for?
Bless Mom and Dad.
That's a good idea, Johnny. I have one. Let's pray for candy.
Candy? I haven't had any candy since Christmas.
Ready? God bless Mommy and Daddy, and please can we have some candy? Oh, but where's our candy? God is all-seeing and everywhere, and if we pray, He answers our prayers. Isn't that true?
Well, I don't know. I prayed for a puppy of my own lots of times, but I never got one.
Maybe we didn't pray hard enough. Perhaps we should kneel down, like it's done in church. Perhaps we're using the wrong name. Instead of God, let's say our leader. Let's pray to our leader for candy. Let's pray extra specially hard, and don't open your eyes until I say. Pray to our leader, children. Now. your prayers?
You put them there. I saw you. You put them there.
Yes, Johnny. You're quite right. You're a very, very wise boy. Children, sit at your desks for a moment. I put the candy on the desk. So you know that it doesn't matter whom you shut your eyes and pray to God or anyone, even our leader. No one will ever give you anything. Only another human being. God didn't give you the puppy you wanted, Fitz, but if you work hard, I will. Only I, or someone like me, can give you things. Praying to God or anyone for something is a waste of time.
We're not to say prayers?
Oh, you can if you want to. Your mummies and daddies want you to, but we know, you and I, that it means nothing. That's our secret.
Teacher, can we have leader's candy now?
Yes. And because Johnny was especially clever, I think that we should make him monitor for the whole week. Don't you?
Thank you, teacher.
Good.
Teacher's right, you know. I'm gonna work hard to have any wrong thoughts. Me too, not like Dad. What are you looking at?
Oh, nothing. I'm just so happy. The fine, fine land. A land to breathe in. And you know, all over our new world, everyone's being taught just like I'm teaching you. Each according to his age group. Each according to his need.
Of course, this was just a story. They were actors and actresses. The flag was make-believe.
All right, if you'll just quickly turn to somebody else. Now, this is an old video. It's been around for a very long time. We used to play it in Omega 2, and then in Delta 2 we played it a lot, and then we started playing it in Omega 4, but we took it out, just because we had too much information on Omega 4. But the thing that was always intriguing is, did anybody notice how much time it took for her to change over that class?
Yeah. Less than 25 minutes.
It was 23 minutes.
But you know, I noticed the clock. Like when it was 20 minutes, the first time they showed the clock, she kept going for a long period of time. When they showed
be practical.
they showed the clock again, and it was still 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, wait a minute.
You have to suspend your
I know.
It's a movie. So the thing that when we used to play this video, we used to talk about how you can be convinced of anything in 23 minutes. And just the techniques that this woman used was phenomenal as well. It was just fantastic. The first thing she did, good children should have food in their tummies, not fear, to comfort them and let them know they shouldn't be afraid. But like I'm concerned about you. And then teachers should work hard. Don't you think teachers should work hard? And if they don't know your name, they're lazy. Right there, she's discounting the other teachers. So here's this teacher that they've had all along, and all of a sudden, this new person comes in and she's discounting the teacher very subtly, discounting them. She didn't say she was a bad teacher. She just said she was old and teachers have to work hard. Then she said, it's wrong for you to say words that, like the Pledge of Allegiance. Why are you saying things that you don't understand? Now, take that out of context. That's a good sentence. You don't have to say things that you don't understand. That's very good. But putting it in the way she used it completely dismantled the Pledge of Allegiance. So much so that, and of course, obviously these were 6th graders, so, I mean 6th graders, 6-year-old kindergartners, so it was a lot easier to change them. Like at the end of the movie, she said each kid according to their age group, each according to their needs. Well, it's the same thing. So with the kids, very young kid, easy to convince them. Just easy to convince them. Took out the words, then let's cut up the flag. Let's cut up the flag. And there's little Johnny, I don't think we should cut up the flag. Oh, it's your birthday. Do you want to cut the first piece? So she uses a birthday. Oh, it's a special honor. It's my birthday. I mean, just really phenomenal tactics that were in there. Of course, and then the parents, this was good. Your daddy has wrong thoughts. Oh, I didn't say bad, I just said wrong. Like, God bless you. She said that in a way to make it look like your parents aren't bad, but they don't have right thinking. And, oh, he didn't pay attention to you when you wanted him to. That's bad. Then she said that was bad. Like, she actually threw the word bad back in there. So then she thought, she actually taught you that you don't have to listen to your parents because, oh, your mommies and daddies want you to pray, so you can just do it for them. But we know it doesn't mean anything. Like, so now undermining the parents. They have no authority. We really know the truth here. And then, of course, prayers are a waste of time. So she dismantled the idea of praying. God won't help you. That the only one that will help you is someone like her, or someone like her. So the leader, you know, and then they called it the leader's candy. That was funny. And then, this was really the most important thing she did. So Johnny, the one who's hanging on, you know how she won him over? By praise. She praised him. Very good, Johnny. You caught me. She never said, that's wrong. You're right. I put the candy on the desk. She acknowledged him, praised him. We should make him the monitor of the week. That's it. There he goes. He's taken over. So 23 minutes in that small little video. Now, of course, as the guy said at the very end, this is just a movie. It was just done by actors, but it really gives you a good picture of how quickly we could give up our belief systems like that. Now, remember, I was using this as a foundation for slavery. You want to know how easily you got trapped into the life that you have of a slavery? That was only 23 minutes. Can you just imagine the ideals, the belief systems that have been passed down from your parents to you? You're a slave to that. When did you start thinking your first original thought? Like, that's something to think about as well. One thing George always used to talk about was, Hermes would say 3 things. You have to leave home, find your own truth, and replace yourself. Now, in my day, that was, you go to college, and then most college students are, all right, we're on YouTube, so I have to be careful, are a little less, they're a lot more radical, can we say? So they don't follow rules accordingly, but they're finding themselves. So college really is set up for you to find yourself, find your own voice. So leave home, find your own truth, and then obviously replacing yourself is towards the end, once you've got a message to continue on. I don't want to go down that path, but I remember thinking when I went to college, I grew up in such a strict, incredibly strict home, that my first night of college, I'm in bed at 10:30. My curfew. I'm in bed at 10:30. My roommate and I are like, we're both in bed at 10:30. We look at each other, and we're like, it dawned on me, there's no parents here. Like, even the dorm people, the ones on the RAs, the residence assistants, they're like our age. Like, there's no parents here. What are we doing in bed? We got up. Now, I went to school in Buffalo where the bars stay open until 4 in the morning. We liked that. A lot. My dad always used to say to people, I don't know how my daughter graduated in 4 years. She never gets any sleep. She's always out partying. Like, I don't know how he knew I was always partying. I must have called him when I was out partying. But anyway, that was a concept to me that there's no parents. I could do whatever I want. I could eat whatever I want, go to class if I want to, don't go to class. It appeared to be no consequences until the end of my first semester. At the end of my first semester, I was put on probation because I had like a 0.8 for, I think I showed up for maybe 3 classes. I didn't realize that was going to happen. I gained, let's see, I must have gained like 40 pounds in the 3-month period. 3-month period, I gained 40 pounds. And I had like a 0.8. So that's when I realized, oh, consequences to my actions now. But it was up to me to discover that and put myself back on a path. Just to complete the story, I'll let you know my senior year I had a 4.0. Just everyone knows that, so that's very important for you to know that. I got my act together. But I remember even the first time I had my own apartment, I moved off campus and had my own apartment my junior year. Wow, I have to pay rent now, I have to pay for utilities, like that's a responsibility. I'm 19 years old, 20 years old, and I'm now being responsible for my life. That was really good for me. I really enjoyed the turmoil of that, having to figure it out. I mean, that really was very beneficial. And I think about the people who are, like today, I read Lindsay Lohan is in the news again. When shouldn't she? But she's in the news again. She got probation this time for, she was in an accident. I guess she smashed her Porsche into a truck, and she claimed that she wasn't driving. And so then it turns out that she finally said, yeah, she was driving. So she went to court and admitted guilt, and instead of sending her to prison or jail, they sent her to another rehab. So she's on, I think this is the 4th rehab that they're sending her to, but it's a lockdown one. She's not allowed to leave. But I look at her and I think there's a generation of kids who haven't really had to leave home. They've just been, their parents did the best they could without malice. They did the best they could so their kids didn't have to struggle the way they did, but they robbed their children of struggling. So they've passed down this generation. So Lindsay Lohan is a slave to her environment now. She's drugs, addiction, Hollywood. It's all about the glitter for her. That's something that started. As a matter of fact, I did a little research on her. She actually was in commercials from the age of 3 to 10. She was a childhood star from 3 to 10. So this kid has been in front of a camera her whole life. So it's almost like she didn't really have any foundation. And I also discovered that her father is a realtor or lawyer, but he's a charlatan. He's been in trouble with the law a couple of times, and the mother is a dancer and a party animal. So not really good guidelines on that. Again, not excusing her, but realizing that it's just being passed down. That's how slavery happened. It just passed down. This is what we learned from our parents. I want to just go back to a little bit of what George had said, that we are all volunteer slaves at one time or another. Great example, the movie, great example. They voluntarily submitted to their teacher. So at one time or another, all of us, in our uncertain lives, we end up being voluntary slaves. The religion is a great one. Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, and Islam, they're all major sponsors of religious slavery. Social slavery, so we have, that includes marriage and a family life. Protocol and etiquette, sex, jewelry and clothing, social gatherings, parties, fads, styles, race, creed, and color. Economic slavery, the credit cards, loans, jobs, insurance, investments, real estate portfolios, retirement plans, budgets, and taxes, all of those. We're all following along with that as well. We're all slaves to our thoughts and emotions, including love and hate, disease of all kinds, aging, feelings, race, color, metabolism, immune system, gender, environment, astrology, and geography. George put all of those in there as well. But it's true, we're slaves to our environment. Look at the hurricane that just hit New York last year. I could say last year now, right? Last year, hurricane. We're subject to the hurricane. The Fukushima disaster. That was Mother Nature. We were slaves to that. In other words, we are in response to a catastrophe that happens. The list is endless, George says. We're slaves to politics and the whims of the government, weather, the school, economy, manners, customs, traditions, without end, not to mention all of the various sundry forms of addictions. One does not have to be a genius to see that the social and economic structures of the modern world depend upon slavery in one form or another to keep the worlds of commerce turning. If it wasn't for slavery, commerce would crash. Just think about it. Everything you have in your life, you bought. You bought, except for your life. But the house that you live in, well, if you're renting, the clothes you're wearing, you bought those. The food you eat, we buy that. Vehicles that we drive in, or if we pay for the bus, all of those, we're paying for that. So all of it is dependent upon commerce. The entertainment that we surrender to. The different types of entertainment, whether you go to the movies, or you have Netflix, or out to eat. All of those are forms of entertainment. We're paying for those. There's people who are addicted to Facebook. Facebook. an organization put online that you just learn about other people's lives and stay in touch with friends from friends. And I don't know what the point of Facebook is. I haven't figured that one out yet. I don't know what kind of contribution Facebook makes. Now, of course, I know I'm anti-Facebook because I did have somebody hack into my account, and really, like, they tell you things like that can't happen. They can. So I'm not wanting to take a formidable position against Facebook. I'm sure when it was originally designed, as a matter of fact, it was designed, I think it was in Boston. They designed it as a social media for the students to help study. So I think that's the way it originally was designed, and then it just went global on the net, and now it's more of a, really a gossip site is the way I see it. Now, I don't want to offend anybody. This is my position. It just seems to be a gossip site. I know people who spend hours sitting on the computer reading about other people's lives or posting their stuff about their life. I remember one time I was at my youngest daughter's house, and she was going through her Facebook to show me a picture of somebody, I don't remember who it was, and it's like on the iPad, pages and pages of just threads of people, comments that people are making. Oh, look, I baked a cake today. Here's what it looked like. Really? Okay. Thank you for sharing. Now, I wouldn't be opposed if you would use it for, hey, I read this great book. Did you hear about this? Or starting a conversation about slavery. What do you think about slavery in the modern times? Like, I think that would be good if it was a good forum, but I haven't seen that occur yet. That might exist, it just hasn't been my experience. So, the infamous slave master, this is what George continues on. For centuries, race, creed, and color were the official gauges by which slave masters determined who lives lives of slaves in servitude. The primitive practice is fading like the mist on a spring morning, with the signs of its perennial presence are still showing. Although we have made some progress, modern-day slavery will not fully disappear until the present order of world leaders and corporate tycoons are returned to the soil, which I think is a very true statement. It's foolish to expect them to change, for the conscience that guides them is not wholly theirs. It was inherited from past generations who learned the art of survival from crocodiles and cockroaches, is what George said. To this day, they embolize firms with jungle names, like lions, bears, bulls, the wolves, the rams, cobras, lions, and other ferocious species. So those great collaborants use the pictures of these forbidding animals, like the Wall Street. You know, Wall Street, there's a big, huge bull in the middle of, I mean, that represents the bull, the market, that's the bull. And then, of course, lions. I was thinking about rhinos. Isn't the propane tanks, those are the rhino propane tanks? And there's a good, sturdy animal. Like, it's funny how we just use those pictures. It never even occurred to me how advertising plays such a big part. I remember George used to talk about the advertising, how advertising is amazing. Within a few short commercials, you're going to change your cereal because something else looks better, or you'll try a new diet. And of course now advertising is amazing because you have, we've got Twitter and Facebook and all the other social media, so you don't even have to advertise on TV anymore. All you have to do is just post a note and it could go global. Now, I'm not wanting to say this is all bad, because there are some things that have been very helpful that the social media has done, and that would be an entirely different topic. I'm just looking at the evil aspect of it tonight. And since I said the word evil, I want to just use this idea. When I think about the word evil, immediately I go to religion, and that really isn't the case. The dictionary defines evil as wicked, bad, or I'm sorry, the thesaurus, if you go to the thesaurus, an evil deed. It's wicked, bad, wrong, immoral, sinful, foul, vile, dishonorable, corrupt, iniquitous, depraved, I know you're going to say that word, villainous, I'm not going to say that word, vicious, malicious, malevolent, thank you. I'm not going to say that word either. Sinister, demonic, devilish, diabolic. I like that one. That name, diabolic. It's diabolical. Wait, Robin used to say that. Fiendish, dark, monstrous, shocking, despicable, ostentatious, heinous, audacious, heinous. Thank you. I'm going to skip that word, contemptible, horrible, skipping that word. So it's more than just religion. It's just all evil just seems to encapsulate all of that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because most people see slavery as evil, which, if you think about it in modern day, yeah, we're under one of those things. Under one of those things that have captured our attention. So much so that we actually would change our values just to fit in. So this is not an attack on modern achievers, but an expose on the fact that the jungle does not stop at the tree line. Every dollar in your pocket came from someone else's pocket, and the modern day slave is an excellent pickpocket. From fun to food, we live in a predominant world which is evil, but not totally evil, because we all aided and abetted the marketplace is the icon for our values. We all participated in it when it came to this. So modern slavery, George says, not much has changed in 5 millenniums. The old slave master provided his slaves with food, clothing, and shelter, and occasional physical abuse. The modern slave receives a token of profits in order for him to buy his own clothing, food, and shelter, as well as paying for the medical bills for the various abuses which he receives, which is emotional, mental, and physical. Think about this. Sometimes we have physical stress on the job. We have mental stress on the job. We have tons of emotional stress on the job. So we're actually having stress which shows up as disease. The original slaves could at least break even with life and die debt-free. But the modern slave leaves a debt that encumbers even their children and their children's children. The slave owner assumes no liability or responsibility for this. In the annals of slavery, nothing changes except the sophistication. Now I really like that idea, that whether it's the 1800s, 1900s, or 2000s, we'd say 2000s now, right? In the 2000s, slavery is the same. It's just been sophisticated. We rationalize a lot more nowadays too. So slave training. The shocking truth of modern slaves is the ease by which they can be trained. Obviously, we just showed that video. 23 minutes was all it took on that one. They do exactly what they're told to do. Slaves, we do exactly what we're told to do. A few TV commercials and they change breakfast cereals, automobiles, and designer jeans that they wear. So I was thinking about this, the iPhone. Well, actually, then I went back a little bit further. I remember when the very first PC hit the market. For you, us old people. Do you remember the very first PC? First of all, the monitor looked like a TV. The computer itself was a big honking thing, and then you had a keyboard. So it was 3 pieces. You needed your keyboard, 4 actually, your keyboard, a mouse, the computer, and then a monitor. That was a big thing. So I remember when that first hit, and it was just all in, I think it was gray with white, was the way it showed up. It was just gray with white keyboards. And you really couldn't do much on it. It was more for like analysis stuff. You could do maybe a word processing program, bank accounts, and stuff like that. Then Apple came along with, I don't know if you remember this, the Mac, what was it? It was the TV and computer is all combined. Do you remember
iMac.
what was it?
iMacs?
The iMacs, no, it was before the iMac. It was called, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like the TV monitor, because I had a purple one. It was the TV monitor. Oh, and it came in different colors too. So you had your TV monitor. I want to call it the...
Oh yeah, that was the iMac.
It was the iMac. Michael, I think you're right. It is the iMac. It was the first i thing that they came out with. It was the iMac. So it was one whole thing, the TV monitor, and all you needed your keyboard and a mouse. That was nice. Like it condensed it down even more. And then of course, Microsoft and Apple went back and forth. But since I'm an Apple person, I'm just going to stick with the progression of the Apple. So you had your Apple. Then you had the MacBooks. Then you have your MacBook Pros. Laptops were introduced. Do you remember the first laptop? Well, and then all of a sudden, I have to remember about pricing too. So I remember the first computer, big huge chunk, it was like $4,000 or something like that. And it had 1/4 of a gig of memory. I mean, a little tiny thing. So then my iMac had like 1/2 a gig. And I think that was something like $3,000. Then the first laptop, I actually still had, well, my brother had it, for a while. It was like that thick, and it opened up a little teeny screen that thick, but mine, which I really liked, it had the cartridges that you could take out, so you could put in a zip drive. Do you remember zip drives? It had a zip drive, or a CD drive, or there was 3 things that I could put in there. It was either, what was it?
Floppy?
A floppy, thank you. So it was either a floppy, a zip, or a CD drive. So I had exchangeable drives on mine. It's a really big, thick piece of junk. I mean, nice piece of equipment. When it first came out, it was phenomenal. You could take your computer with you. That was amazing. And I remember reading a study that the laptops replaced the towers in Apple. I don't even think Apple makes towers anymore. Or maybe they do, but they're not big. So then laptops progressed. So I have a MacBook Pro right now, so a lot thinner. But then, now what's the next generation? iPads. iPads are the next generation. You don't even need to have anything. I mean, it's like razor thin, and that's so light, and you can carry it. You can do almost everything that our smartphones do. So not only to the computers, I got addicted to the computers, and here's the thing too. As a graphic designer, I was a graphic designer for a while. Every time you had a computer program, you know what they did every year? Upgraded the software. So you had to pay to upgrade your software. How many years and thousands of dollars on upgrading software? That is a slave to commerce. If I wanted to stay up with the software, and if I wanted to be able to produce things and get it to the printer, it had to be upgraded. And it wasn't just one program. Every program had to be upgraded. So as a graphic designer, we had Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, we had Quark Express. Those are the 3 main, which normal people didn't use. Like my family on their computers, they didn't even know what Quark Express was. That's a print industry program. Every year, all of those had to be upgraded. So that right there is a good picture of slavery. So then, along with that, then the phones came out. You remember the very first phone? It looked like a walkie-talkie, those big, huge, hunky things. Well, actually, the first phones were car phones. They were in your car, you had the antenna on the phone, and you could talk. That was a, woo, I'm talking on my car phone. Then you had those big, hunky walkie-talkie things, and then that started to get smaller and smaller and smaller. I remember one time, I had in my purse a phone, and then I also had something that was a little bit larger than this. It was my calendar. What was that called?
PDA.
A PDA, thank you, Sharon. We had a PDA, so I had a phone, a PDA, and an iPod. So I had 3 things that I carried around. If I wanted to listen to music, I had my iPod, and then of course you had to change and upgrade on each one of those. And then they finally progressed to the smartphone. So all 3 things are now in here. But this actually carries computer qualities as well. I could do the internet on this one, Facebook if I was a Facebook person. And the same thing that the pads do, the iPads do as well. I just saw this weekend the release of the new Galaxy. Has anyone seen this? This is phenomenal. It's going to give Apple a hit. The Galaxy is a smartphone that recognizes eye movement. So if you're watching a video and your eyes look away, the video will pause. It responds to your movement. You don't even have to touch the screen. It responds to the movement of your finger, and it'll open up applications like that. It's amazing. It's absolute. And the guy that was doing the report goes, "I'm waiting for the computers to start reading our minds." Call Jane. One day that's going to happen. But right now, that's phenomenal. And you know what's going to happen? There's going to be lines and lines of people to get their hands on the new smartphone. Now really, does it make it a better phone? Michael's pulling it out. Check it out. Let me see.
No, I'm going to pull up something that Einstein said back in 1920.
Does it make it a better phone just because it follows your eye? I don't know. But all of you went like, whoa! We're captured by the sparkle, aren't we? It's the glitter. It captures our attention and, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. This is funny too with the iPhones. I remember when the iPhone first came out, I actually refused to get it because it was hooked up with AT&T and I had Sprint at the time, and I wanted to be able to have it on the Sprint because AT&T you had to pay for extra data services, and it wasn't with the Sprint. I'd been with Sprint for like 15 years or 20 years, so I had one like grandfathered in And I was paying literally $60 a month, unlimited phone, internet, everything, 60 bucks, maybe. I think, maybe. It might have been that high. And I refused to get the iPhone because Sprint didn't have iPhone. So I went for a while without it, and then I couldn't take it anymore. So I switched over to AT&T begrudgingly. I switched over to AT&T so I could get my iPhone because I had to have it. And then naturally, within the first year, they upgraded phones. Oh, iPhone 3.5. I honestly couldn't tell you what the difference was, but I switched over to the 3.5. Then iPhone 4, iPhone 4.5. I think I'm at a 4.5 right now, and 5 is out. But you know what? Sprint does have, I'm back to Sprint. I'm back to Sprint. Sprint got them, I went back to Sprint. But the 5 isn't done. I just saw there's another commercial, the new upgrade, they're coming with a 5.5. It's gonna be like a 5.5, yeah. So what's amazing to me is how it's the glitter. We capture that. And even the TVs, like TVs, I remember when we were growing up, 3 channels. NBC, CBS, and ABC, that was it. Cable wasn't introduced until the 80s, I believe. So we had 3D, oh, plus independent. I think there was some independence. Fox didn't come around until, I want to say when cable hit, Fox came on as a national network. But there was originally just 3 national networks, NBC, ABC, and CBS. And we would be glued to the TV. Just glued to the TV. We're a slave to the TV. Then there's, now today, I mean, there's hundreds, literally hundreds of channels out there. I can't even imagine what is worth watching on TV, but there's hundreds of channels out there right now. And people have their favorites, obviously. My brother, many of you know this, he's an actor, and weren't the Emmys or the Golden Globes or the Oscars, one of those things just happened, one of the awards, the Oscars just happened, and he'll rattle off, oh, I saw so-and-so, and I don't even know who these people are. Because there's so many cable stations, you could be an actress like that. I mean, it's amazing to me that he hasn't been as successful as some of these other people because there's so many shows that you can get on. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. Anyway, I'm not going to, that's a side note. But we're addicted to that. We're a slave to the TV. We're a slave to the shows. Friends. You remember Friends when that came out? I think that was in the 90s, so it first came out. That lasted a long time. People grew up watching that show.
It's still on there.
No, reruns are on the air, but not the originals.
Oh, yeah.
But that was like a big thing. That was, you know, the new culture. Now coffee shops come into play. Did I mention Starbucks? We're addicted to Starbucks.
How about gasoline?
Gasoline is a big
Slave to our
thing.
gasoline.
Yeah, look at us right now. We're approaching $4 a gallon, right? And we do it because we need it. I think over in England they're already up to $5 or $6 a gallon over there. But we do it because we want our gas. Now, I will tell you a guilty story that I have. When I still have my truck. It's a hybrid. Bought a hybrid. I wanted to be green. You know, fuck the system. I'm going to save gas. And it didn't really save me much gas. I actually got it for George so he could get in and out of the car because it was right at the same level as him, so it was easy for him to get in and out of the car. But you know, I became pretty committed to that. Well, bought a new car now. And you know what? I was going to go green, but I didn't. Sparkle got me. I always wanted a convertible. Salesman was good. He was real good. I said, I can't have a convertible. I'm deaf in one ear. I can't. The top, oh, no. Have you ever had a hardtop convertible? Well, I've heard about hardtops, but I like a sunroof. Every car I've ever had either had a sunroof or installed one. I like the sunroof because I like the sense of freedom. Oh. There's a hardtop convertible with a sunroof. That's all I had to say. I'm not kidding you. Forget being green, hybrid. Who cares? Let me see the car. I got in this vehicle. Oh my God. I was sold like that. Now, that's it. When I look back at the whole idea, total slavery. I mean, really, does it make me a better driver just because I have a convertible? The driving experience is much better now. But am I being green anymore? Were my values? They went like that. Just like that. Sparkle got me. I always want a convertible. Now they have a convertible that can accommodate me. Perfect. And here's the thing that really got me. We took the top down. Now Marcus is funny. I'm deaf in this ear. Mark is deaf in this ear. So we're deaf in opposite ears. So riding in a car is a little it's difficult for us. We're like, what? What? thinking we're not even going to be able to hear each other. The dynamics of this car, the way it was built, his dad actually said this, that the window actually is a bit more curved and comes further back than normal convertibles, and it's more concave on the side. We can actually have a conversation with the top down and I can hear him. It's amazing. Yeah, I'm trying to sell you my car. Guilty that I bought it. Every time I go to the gas station, $50 to fill up a 4-cylinder. $50. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a turbo. Did I mention it was a turbo?
You can watch the gas gauge.
Yeah. Well, I noticed one thing. Because it's a turbo, I've been paying attention to the RPMs. And normally your RPMs go between the 1 and 2. As soon as I switch it into sports mode, the RPMs automatically go up to 4. I mean, I'm revving my engine without even, pressing the gas pedal. It's amazing. I feel so guilty every time I do that. But then the other part of me goes, look! Watch this! Whoever having the car, I go, watch this! And I hit the gas, and you're like, whoa! I mean, it really is quite funny. But that's the thing. I'm a slave to something I've always wanted my whole life. Was it a rational decision? Absolutely not. Economical? Absolutely not. Green? Absolutely not. So every single standard value that I had went out the window because, sparkle, I can have a convertible with a sunroof. Totally sold me. So that was a good picture, though, on how quickly we could actually give up the things that I went in there looking for a hybrid. I was gone there, maybe 20 minutes is all it took. And forget it, I'm not eco anymore. I'm one of these gas-grinding, guzzling, carbon footprint-making people. So like the rest of my life now I have to make up for it. I'm a vegan now. Sorry, been a vegan for a while. But I'm aware, I'm thinking, okay, I'll ride my bike a little bit more. If I'm just going to go to the store, I'll ride my bike to the store. It's really made me more conscious of decisions on how quickly we can be. I'm a slave to clothes. I'm a slave to shoes. How many women love shoes? Please raise your hand. Thank you so much. So merging my house into, well, first when I had to merge into George's house, that was a challenge. There wasn't enough room for my shoes. And then merging into Mark's house, he has a walk-in closet. George didn't have a lot of storage in his house. Let me just say that. Great location, no storage. So, and I came from a walk-in closet. He didn't have walk-in closets. So I literally had to, for those of you who were there helping me move, you saw me. I got rid of 75% of my stuff. Just out the door, it's gone. I practiced pruning. So then I moved into Mark's house. He has a walk-in closet now. But I only get half the walk-in closet. I get the whole walk-in closet where I put my shoes. So I had shoe racks, and they weren't that high. I had 2 shoe racks. At one time, we counted out the amount of shoes I had. I think I was at 72. That's a lot. That's obscene. So I got rid of them. I'm down to 50. No, I'm kidding. But I actually went through and counted my sneakers. So I have workout sneakers. I have sneakers that you ride on a bicycle. I have sneakers that I would just walk around in, comfortable sneakers. I have sneakers that I would do when I had my massage business, so I had my massage sneakers. I had sneakers that were clogs, just like you slide in and slide out of. I had those sneakers. I had to have my Skechers. So I had Skechers. I had sneakers that didn't have laces and sneakers that did have laces. Black sneakers, purple sneakers. I had like 15 pairs of just sneakers alone. Literally, that was insane. So I had to cut that down. And then, of course, black shoes. How many pairs of black shoes do you need? They're pretty. Now, I'm saying that as a joke, but really, it's slavery. I'm a slave to because society is brought that way. Women have shoes. We love our shoes. I mean, I think if they made the different designs and different types of shoes for men, you would probably have just as many shoes as women do. But they don't have that many options. I mean, it's black, brown sneakers. That's about it. But women, we have sandals and lots of low heels, high heels, medium heels, 2 inches, 3. I'm not going to go through them. So that's slave right there. Clothing, the same thing with clothing. I'm a slave to that. Oh, look, that looks really good on that lady. Where'd she get it from? I mean, that's a good question I love to do. Where'd you buy that at? It's because I'm addicted to that form of fashion. So fashion, the fashion industry actually is waves a little, you know, you're feeling very sleepy. And fashion industry, sometimes I look at the clothes and think, did we honestly wear those? Have you ever seen clothes from the old, I just saw an old Billy Joel video. Oh my, we dressed like that. Oh my gosh. Today I think, oh, that's horrid. I would never wear that again. But you know what? In 15 years, it's probably going to come back. And everybody will love it again. So, slaves to the fashion. We're slaves to our fashion. Of course, we're slave to, I want to say that we mentioned the politics. We have to follow. We don't have to, but we follow the governments and whatever that be and what they tell us. I will tell you this. Because I am a broadcast major, I feel like I am able to speak about this openly and freely. You know that the news that they report on the stations is not complete. You know that. I just want everyone to know that. News is not the complete picture, it's what they want you to know. That's your news. So I'm sure everyone knows this, but because I've been behind the scenes, many years I worked in the industry, I watched this. It was amazing. Amazing. I actually had to finally leave because it was just too upsetting to me. Anyway, so the line that George said is, we are true modern slaves, we do exactly what we're told. The news people tell us, oh, we believe that. Hate these people? Okay, we'll hate them. Fashion, here's the fashion. We're just a phone, here's the new phone. Galaxy, oh, I look like, ooh, it's all, it's out there, what we're told. That's what we need to have it. I remember when, and we're coming to a close here, I'm not going to finish the paper, but I remember when we were coming to the year 2000. And there was the big panic because, you know, the water system may not work anymore, or the food, or the electricity, or the airplanes are going to come crashing out of the sky because the computer systems aren't going to work. And I remember not much of a panic, but a little bit of a panic. It actually was more panicky for 2000 than it was for 2012. That was my experience. More people were panicked about 2000 than 2012. So I remember in 2000, George, in his best interest, didn't want to follow along with the panic, but he also said, well, what if they're right? What happens? What do you do? So he went out and got one of these large barrels to collect water. And he had a water filter in it, just in case the water did go bad and you need to have fresh filtered water. And he said, you know, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can still drink out of that. It's not like I'm going to go nuts. He bought a year's worth of food. Okay, not a bad thing. A lot of the Mormons practice keeping food, so okay, not a problem. I can have food for a year. What's the worst that can happen? I eat it, fine. I'll eat the food. What he did was prepare without panic. I thought that was very smart because I saw so many people selling things back in 2000. Buy this, buy that, your own personal camping gear, own personal kit, safety. And he didn't fall into that, but he also thought, well, there might be some merit to this, so consciously use the things that he knew he would use anyway. So we ate that food, we drank out of that water, it was fine. So there was no panic. And when I thought about that tonight, I thought that's a picture of being a voluntary slave, or conscious, if we could throw the word conscious in it. He consciously went along with some of the idea, and all he did was prepare. He was prepared. So 2012, we used to talk about this a lot, we laughed, and you know, 2012, he had to stay around for 2012. That was our agreement. He wasn't going to die until 2012, which he did. He just died on June instead of December, but he stayed around for 2012. And we used to talk about this, and as a matter of fact, one of our facilitators used to say, be careful because it sounds like we're buying into the 2012. And I would just say to her, you know, I'm just doing what George did in 2000. What if this is true? I mean, I'm not going to panic and freak out, but is it going to be bad to have a little extra food and a little extra water around? No. Do I need to have some security? Maybe. But there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I didn't go, oh, 2012. As a matter of fact, when 2012 came around, I was off in a 10-day silent retreat. So, you know, if the world ended, I would have not known anything about it. That was supposed to be a joke, but I guess it was a 10-day silent retreat where we had no internet access, no phones, nothing. I mean, you were disconnected from the world. And that, to me, is the way I want to end up. I'm right at 8:30 right now. But I want to end up tonight. That really gave me the birth of this idea of following along with slavery, because for those 10 days, I was free. I was not connected to the world, but yet I was still in the world. I didn't know about the news, but I was connected to the people around me. Even though we weren't talking to each other, we had a common respect. We had cohesion, cooperation. It was run by volunteers, and there was no violence. We lived peacefully together. For those 10 days, I had freedom. I wasn't a slave to anything. Now, you could say I was a slave to that environment because I went there voluntarily. Well, yes, we can look at that. But in the overall, I was free from everything else that I was enslaved to. There wasn't even a Starbucks on campus. I drank herbal tea. But that in itself was a good change, as a matter of fact, as well. So in the end, what I'd like to do is just to get you think, because like I said, next time we're going to come back, we'll pick up this. Think about the things that you are enslaved to. And if there's a way that you could break yourself from slavery, or if you can switch it to being involuntary to voluntary. If you can voluntarily still do the things you're doing, but know you're aware you're doing them, rather than having that, oh, I gotta have that, to, well, I think this might be beneficial, I might take it. Like, make it a conscious choice versus an unconscious choice. So I'm going to challenge you for the next 2 weeks to see if you can keep in play, in mind, the things that you're slave to, and if you could break yourself free from being a slave. When we come back the next time, we'll finish up, hopefully, on slavery. I did print out, these are George's notes. I just did a little bit of editing, but this is actually George's notes from the book that he had started. So you'll actually get that tonight when you leave. So thank you very much for letting me play around with you. Thanks for watching the movie. We'll see you at the next workshop. Have a good night.